When did your instincts scream, "You need to get out of here"? And what did you later realize you avoided? On Halloween, my partner, friends, and family went clubbing. It was around midnight, and we were already thinking about heading home. Before leaving, we walked up and down the club street a bit. It was packed. Tons of people in costumes, the street buzzing, shops, tattoo parlors, clubs, bars, restaurants, everything open. My partner asked, should we walk the other way or just head out? I looked at the street and suddenly thought, this would be the perfect place for someone to start shooting. Huge crowd, nowhere to run. The thought came out of nowhere and gave me chills. I refused to keep walking and insisted we leave immediately. The others didn't really want to, but I said I had a really bad feeling. 5 minutes later, we caught an Uber and left. As we drove away, several police cars sped past us with lights and sirens heading straight toward that club street. We went home, ate pizza, and went to bed around 4 a.m. The next morning, our phones were flooded with missed calls and messages. We had left just minutes before a shooting started, right in front of the club we'd been posting stories from. We left around 1:40 a.m. The shooting started at 1:47. Several people were injured, 3 critically. The shooter and 1 other person died. We missed it by minutes. Just insane. My dad ignored his instincts once and almost died. He was in high school and worked at my grandfather's store. It was the opening day of dove hunting season, and he had the day off to go hunting. But when he woke up that morning, he had a strong feeling that something terrible would happen that day. He called everyone who was supposed to work at the store and asked, "Do you feel like something's off? Want me to cover your shift?" For some reason, he thought something bad would happen to someone else. Everyone told him he was overreacting and should just enjoy his day off. So he packed up the truck with his dog and went hunting. On the way, the dog broke out of its crate in the back. He had a double cab truck, and the dog jumped into his lap while he was driving 120 kilometers per hour, 75 miles per hour. He lost control, flew off the road, and crashed into a tree. His skull fractured in several places. His nose was crushed into his sinus cavity. His left eye popped out of its socket and was hanging by the optic nerve. Multiple broken ribs. Somehow, probably due to shock, he managed to crawl out of the wreck and make it to a nearby house. It was incredibly lucky there even was a house in that remote area. The elderly woman who opened the door almost fainted. She tried to bring him inside, but there was a white carpet. He was convinced he was dying and didn't want to ruin it with blood, so he refused and passed out on the porch. He woke up in a hospital. A surgeon pulled back the sheet from his face and said, "I can't do anything here," and left. My dad thought, that's it, I'm done. But the surgeon meant he wasn't a plastic surgeon. This required serious facial reconstruction. He was transferred to another hospital where they essentially rebuilt his face. Today he's okay, just scars and minor after effects. When I was little, some of my friends refused to come over because of the scary uncle. But I've always known him this way. To me, he looks normal. Ironically, I look exactly like a photo of him taken at 17, just weeks before the accident. One of my friends had a mentally unstable roommate. She was constantly picking fights. One day we were hanging out when the roommate came home. She didn't yell like usual. She just walked past, stopped at the doorway, stared at us for a long time, and left. I felt this intense sense of danger. I told my friend, let's go somewhere and let her cool off. She said she was tired and just wanted to sleep. At the door, I told her, at least lock your door. She did, and I left. Late that night, I got a message. The roommates are fighting. I called the police. Then she stopped responding. The next day, I learned she tried to break up the fight and was stabbed to death. I'll never forgive myself for not insisting harder, for not dragging her out of that apartment when I felt something was wrong. She didn't deserve to die like that. In chemistry class, I suddenly felt like I needed to switch seats. I did. A few minutes later, the place I had been sitting burst into flames. A gas leak had built up and ignited when it reached a burner. No one was sitting there anymore, so no one got hurt. After that, our teacher never let us work with open flames again. My mom had uncontrollable high blood pressure my whole childhood, up to 270 over 120. One night I randomly woke up. I thought I heard a dull thud but wasn't sure. I tried to go back to sleep, but something wouldn't let me. I walked down the hallway and found her on the bathroom floor in the dark. She was conscious. I asked why she didn't turn on the light. She said she didn't want to wake me. She got back to bed. I asked if I should call an ambulance. That last year I called them often. She said yes. She had a massive heart attack and died in my arms about 30 minutes later while we waited for the ambulance. If I had gone back to sleep, I would have found her cold on the tile floor in the morning. Instead, she got to say everything she wanted to say. I'll never forget her last words. Instincts know when death is knocking. Years ago in New Orleans, I met a cute TV director who invited me over after a great evening. Everything felt fine. In any other situation, I would have said yes. But something inside said, not tonight. I went back to my hotel. I woke up an hour later with severe food poisoning. So did two of my friends. We spent the night violently sick. If I had gone to his place, that poor guy would have been stuck playing nurse all night. My instinct didn't save me. It saved him. When I was depressed and working 3 jobs, I met a guy who claimed he was lost on mushrooms. I later went to his place to smoke. Red flags everywhere, empty house, wild stories about weapons dealing, killing people just to see what it's like. I left as fast as I could. Later, I found out the house was a supervised living facility for people with severe mental illness. After a gym session with my abusive ex, I decided to go home alone instead of sitting in his truck like usual. Minutes later, an elderly woman confused the pedals and smashed into his parked truck at full speed. The passenger side, where I would have been, was completely destroyed. I would have died. At a music festival, I suddenly felt I needed to get out of the crowd near the front. I had people lift me out. Later, a teenage girl was crushed in the crowd and died. One night before rideshare apps, I stayed briefly at a male friend's apartment. Something felt wrong. I left. He chased me in his car, trying to get me back. I ran, fell off a 3-meter retaining wall, broke my tailbone, shattered my phone, and walked 4 kilometers home in freezing weather. I later broke up with my boyfriend who refused to pick me up that night. In high school, my uncle insisted on taking me out to buy a bridesmaid dress for his wedding. Afterward, he started driving around erratically, smoking weed, ranting. I demanded he drop me at my grandparents' house. Later that night, he had a psychotic breakdown in a mall, waving a knife. He was hospitalized. When I was 20, a guy named George offered me a ride after my car broke down. Something about him terrified me from the start. I refused. Later, I learned George wasn't his real name. He was a convicted child molester who had moved to our area to avoid further charges and wasn't allowed on social media. Police showed up asking questions shortly after he tried to contact me. To this day, I think about what might have happened if I'd gotten into his car. Thank God for instincts that scream no. Working with a coworker this night because it was busy, I was in the office checking vest battery levels while my coworker was outside running the register. There were no games going on, so all the rooms were empty. I heard what sounded like someone running up the ramp towards the vesting room, where the office is also located, and I looked at the door to the arena, fully expecting it to burst open and someone to run through. The footsteps stop, and it goes silent. Then there's a loud bang. I jumped and screamed and ran to get my coworker. He opened the door and we found a shoe in the floor that definitely was not there before. Also, we never found the other one, so that still bothers me when I think about it. Another incident was one night. 2 of our regulars were at the facility for their bowling league. Their kids wanted to play laser tag. I don't remember their exact ages, but at the time I'd say the girl was about 5 or 6, and the boy was probably 7 or 8. Just the 2 of them, they asked if I'd play too. I agreed, and we went into the arena to play. Midway through the game, the girl pops the corner, and I notice her vest is turned off, which can't happen unless it's done by the computer in the office. Then the music stops, So, of course, I flip shit and think the lights are going next. I was so sure someone was in the office who wasn't supposed to be. I ran out, threw the office door open, and the computer had crashed. Never happened before. I call the kids in to reset the game, and the little girl says she's scared and doesn't want to play again. I told them okay, and that I would refund their parents. I was helping her get the laser tag vest off when she said, "Hey, I have a question." I asked what it was, and she said, "Who was the man in there playing with us?" There was no man in there. It was just me, 19F at the time, and the kids. I told her there wasn't anyone else in there, and she said yes, there was, she could show me. She grabs my hand, walks me to the door and opens it, points up on the ramp and says, "See, he's right there." I told her I didn't see anything, and she goes, "How can you not see him? His hair is glowing." Edit. Wow, my first award. Wasn't expecting that over some of my creepy experiences I've had at work. Thank you. I worked at a very old restaurant one time, and no lie, it had a mouse problem. It was in a very old building, in a very old neighborhood. We caught a few live mice on a few shifts. I'm surprised the health department never shut us down in 27 years. Anyway, one night I was bartending, and I look over and see this young busser frantically waving at me. It was the end of the shift, thankfully. I almost immediately knew what happened. He was cleaning a table, and somehow a mouse ran under his foot. And he crushed it. He's like 6'4". Our 22-year-old busser killed a suicidal mouse. The worst part was this U-Girl server watched the whole thing. She watched him kill it, watched it wiggle around. We had to take her outside so she could cry while I scooped up Mickey and disposed of him. I'll never forget the look on Luke's face after he stepped on that mouse. I bought him a beer that night. I was working the night shift at an animal shelter. I went to take the trash out to the big dumpster out back, so it was super dark. And a car of guys drove by and yelled a bunch of inappropriate stuff at me and drove off. I flipped them off while they were yelling stuff at me. As I was closing up and putting up the cats for the night, I could see their car out the window parked right next to mine outside. The only two cars in the parking lot. I took a deep breath and got my pepper spray locked and loaded and closed up and went to my car. Their car was still there next to mine, but it was empty. I never found out who they were or where they went. The car was gone when I got there the next morning. Reading through this thread makes me feel like I need to get pepper spray when I get a job and start going outside more. This happened to me about 3 years ago when I was working in an advertising agency. I was working very late that night. It was probably close to 3 a.m. and as far as I could tell, probably the only one there at the time. If you were to walk into my department, you would see what is essentially a long and wide hallway with tall, wooden cupboard desks on the left and right. The left would have 4 desks where the directors/seniors would sit, while the right would have about 8 desks arranged to create a cubicle space for the juniors. This arrangement is repeated 4 times along the hallway, essentially creating 4 segments of space which belong to a different team/brand. This also naturally creates an aisle walkway right through the middle. I have an aisle seat on the 3rd section, so when I sit down, I can't see directly in front of me because it's the tall cupboard desk thing. But leaning to the side, I can basically see the whole length of the hallway with a clear view of the desks in the 1st section. The 1st section belonged to a milk brand, so the top of their cupboards were stacked with many samples of milk cartons of different designs. So that night, as I was the only one there, only my section was lit with the ceiling fan on. I was typing emails and was already feeling uneasy with how dark the whole office is and the fact that it's FKing 3 AMAKA the witching hour. And it didn't help that my brain was reminding me of all the office horror stories my colleagues have shared over the years, like how this building was built over a damn graveyard. And suddenly, I heard a clattering of items, and I immediately peeked my head out, only to see down the hallway that nearly all the milk cartons at the 1st section have fallen. Looked up, ceiling fan was off. Mind you, there's no way the airflow from my section caused that, because the space between our sections is very big. So, if that wasn't a sign telling me to get the fuck out of the office now, then I don't know what was. Slammed my laptop shut, shoved it into my bag, and went straight home. I work in a hospital, so we get some real weird people coming through. Usually it's because of mental health problems and not really their fault, But it's still off-putting when you don't know how someone is going to act when you stick a needle in their arm. There was one guy who came in during a mental health crisis and had to be restrained by security twice before calming down. When I was finally able to go into his room to draw labs so we could start getting his medication under control, he was just wrong. I don't know what was going on in his head, but he obviously had no idea where he was, or that I was even in the room. He kept growling, and he had this wild look in his eyes that reminded me of a cornered animal more than a human. Thankfully, he didn't even notice me drawing labs, but boy did that one make me nervous. Used to clean a church alone late at night. There was a piano upstairs, which I thought was broken, which was why it was upstairs in the attic. One night I started hearing piano music from the attic. I immediately assumed someone was up there pranking me, so I went up and there was no one. When I turned around to walk away after realizing no one was there, I heard a loud bang behind this metal door, which I assume was an attic closet. Never worked the night shift again. Asked the one other person that worked night shifts. She confirmed weird shit happening was normal. I would never, I repeat, never have enough balls to walk up into that attic. I would have run out of there crying like a little baby and never gone back. Oh man, the urge to investigate is real. It's like I can either spend the rest of tonight in fear, waiting for something to pounce when I'm not ready, or forgetting about it and getting pounced unprepared, or I can face it now. Yup. My grandma taught us this mentality. You can either not investigate and tell ghost stories your whole life, or investigate and realize the ghost was actually just a coat rack. She has a hilarious story about having a dream about a demon baby. She then woke up around midnight and hears a baby crying in her garden, but it sounded off/not human. The cries go on for a bit, and she told herself she just had to investigate. Goes into the yard and shines the light on two cats doing the nasty. She says if she hadn't, she would have been haunted by demon babies her whole life, but now she is just haunted by the sight and sounds of cats getting it on.